All right, let's get into the weekly watch report where we talk about the things we watched this week. Weekly watch report on Monday. 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 So I really, I'm not gonna lie, I actually have not watched much. I'm pretty much a wash for this week. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, you didn't watch anything?
No, I mean,
I think one of my favorite things is when Rhea does the whole intro and the song, and then she's like, "So not gonna lie, I didn't watch it." No, but I will say it was.
I remember I was wedding.
World Series was still going on. So
Yeah.
those are like those games. Those are nights when you would normally be watching TV, but you're watching baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So
Baseball.
I felt I had that. Like I haven't watched a lot
Brother's
either.
wedding, so not really
Yeah.
much. I watched the first episode of The Penguin. I'll give that an A.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's very good.
Good stuff.
But
I haven't watched
long episodes,
Oh
so I
my
need to
God.
lock in a little bit more.
Yeah, they are long.
I watched
Like
the
Joe
first,
said, he's like, these episodes are like movies.
Yeah, I watched the first one last night, and then I was like, I'm gonna fall asleep, so
Yeah.
we're gonna have to take a pause on this. Continuing to watch Veep, Love, obviously, and I watched Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates.
Great movie.
Classic.
A classic.
I'll give that a B.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
It's a fair
It's
grade.
a solid grade for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Okay.
I don't really have anything.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys.
It's totally fine.
It's not. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
My
That's
big
the
bro.
truth.
My big bro
Your
got married.
Got married. Yep. I watched the Love Is Blind reunion, and I mean, we have something must be done. They cannot continue to have these reunions be the snooze fest that they are. They really can't. I'm so sorry. If they want to have a Love Is Blind special taping where they bring in ex Love Is Blinders and Jessica, she got married last year. Let's talk to her about it. Like, I don't want that in the reunion for the season. Talk about the season we just watched. They can be in the audience, fine, but they're just, the ex people are in it too much and there's too much commentary from everybody else. Ask these people the questions. The amount of, you'd be sick. The amount of puns
Oh my
the
God.
Lachey's made
They're the worst.
in this
hosts.
reunion. It was pun city. Puns left and right.
Not
Couldn't
good
stop
ones.
making puns. And there's just a bad segue. I mean, I almost had to go back and rewind the Tyler and Ashley part because I was like, am I the wrong one here? Like, they're making me feel like I'm crazy, that I'm wondering what happens to them when they're like, we're good, we're fine. Like, Ashley's like, I'm his wife. Like, you don't think I know what's going on, like, behind closed doors? And I'm like, well, we're here to ask you about that. That's the whole point. I'm like, Andy Cohen would have never let this happen. Where they're just, and Nick and Vanessa are like, okay, cool, happy for you guys. Glad you guys are like in love and you're like still married and everything. That's great. What? What happened? What do you mean? He didn't want to bring up the kids, but then she knew about the kids, and it was actually Ashley who wanted to mention the kids on camera. He didn't want the kids to be mentioned. So obviously he was, you could tell he was lying when she was like, oh, do they know what you look like? He's like, I don't think so. Like, she was like, oh, you could tell he was obviously lying. He didn't want to talk about it on camera. I was like, what? What?
Yeah, they don't
I'm
know.
so
how,
confused.
They don't know how to do a reunion.
Is he still involved in the children's life? There's so many questions. Where are these kids? The mom is on Instagram being like, hey, these are his children. And it would be nice. She's looking, there seems to be some financial compensation. I'm like, hey, all you have to do, if that's Andy Cohen, he'd look at his paper, he'd say, so Tyler at Sassy Girl 57 from Michigan wants to know how you feel about everybody calling you a deadbeat dad on social media.
Yeah, that would be the question.
That's the
Andy Cohen would.
That's the answer we're looking for.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it's just a tough formula. I go back and forth because I understand why they give them a year of like actually being married without the outside noise, because it is, I'm sure, a good test to see if married life is really going to work with them without everybody actually watching the show. So for their real lives, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
For us as viewers, a year is far too long, and they've all moved on. Like, they don't care anymore. It's just they've had a year. It's like, oh, the drama.
It all dies down.
And then they just focused on this Nick Hannah situation for way too long. Did Nick call Hannah a grenade? He wouldn't admit to it, but everybody else, they just are like, I'm like, this is what we're going to argue about for 15 minutes of the special. Hannah is quite the persona. Like, she's just a fascinating human being. She really is. Like, she was just like, look, like, I'm blunt. And yeah, maybe I'm a bitch. I don't know. But I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm sorry.
Well, no, I saw people saying that he should have said, like, when they were talking about the grade, he's like, oh, sorry, I'm blunt. Like, he should have just said the same thing. It's like, you can't have that as your excuse for being a mean person.
That's always true. Like, oh, like, I guess I have to, like, check my personality. Sometimes I'm just so blunt. Like, I just say what I want to say all the time.
A lot of mean people will disguise it as just being blunt. Like, I'm just blunt. Well, like, there's also like a time and a place.
Right.
You know what I mean? Of being blunt.
She's like, oh, I guess I could have, like, gone easier on you. I don't know. The whole thing was just, it was boring. Like, just boring. I just even, like, I don't know. Steven weirded me out to no end. That was weird. His whole thing was weird.
Oh, and they were like, he started talking, and they were like, hold on, like, we're not.
Yeah.
He's a weird guy.
Weird. He's like, nobody wants to hear my answer because nobody's gonna believe me. Nobody wants to hear what I want to say anyway. I'm like, what is? I'm like, he's gaslighting all of us. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what I want to say. Is what he kept saying. I'm like, oh my god.
Also, when Nicholas, like, when they are like, after someone has an emotional, like, whatever, and they're like, hey, we just need to tell you, like, you're a strong person. Like, I don't buy it for a second. I don't need to hear the host, like,
that's not what they're there for. It's
just like, that is unneeded.
It is. I agree. I mean, it's nice that they do that for them, but at the same time, I'm like, make this a reunion. Make this a cutting. We're asking the tough questions. We're getting answers. We're not here to be like, oh, you guys did a good job, and thanks so much for coming on the show. Like, give us something more.
The start of the reunion, you would have thought that, like, it was so clearly, like, fake crowd noise. It sounded like it was Game 7 of, like, the NBA Finals, where they just had it pumping, and I'm like, I don't know.
I mean, there was a live, there wasn't an audience.
I know, but like, if you saw the audience, no one was like, it's just, the whole thing just seems so, like, fake. I don't know.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think I'll give the reunion like a D+. Like, it was
terrible.
I didn't, and not a single. I gotta listen to Nick Viall's podcast to get any answers about this season of Love Is Blind. He's, like, that's where we're at.
Like, I audibly go, oh, sorry.
That's where I'm at. Is like, he's the only one asking questions, putting these people in the hot seat. Nick and Vanessa not doing their jobs. Nick V will do his job. He will put them in that seat. But yeah, no, it was not good, I will say. It's just, for a show that gets so many viewers and so many people talk about, like, when the pods are happening, everybody's talking about the show. Like, it's just publicly, friends are talking about it, everybody's talking about it. By the time they get to the reunion, everyone's like, oh, whatever, the reunion always sucks anyway. Yeah. So it's like, you gotta fix the reunion.
Right.
Gotta fix the reunion. I caught up on the challenge.
I have to catch up on the challenge.
I caught up on the challenge.
Do not spoil. I'm going to catch up on the challenge.
I won't, but
that's my mission.
It's a good season. I am really enjoying it.
On our flights this week, I'm catching up on the challenge.
Really enjoying it. All I'll say is Bananas has really been in the mix with which I've enjoyed.
That's what we like to see.
Yeah. I'll give the challenge. I'm totally up to date, so I will give that a B. I mean, it's they're cruising. It's a good season right now. And I'm caught up on Housewives of Salt Lake City. I'll give that a B-. I don't really have too much commentary right now on it. It's just been, like, it's just kind of, putting it on and watching it. And I caught up on, there was no episode last week. So I was watching from the previous week. They were all episode 5 of Med, Fire, and PD Chicago. So I'm caught up with that. They didn't do a new episode last week, so I'm not sure what they were doing there. they always some weeks it's just not on. There's no rhyme or reason. Sometimes it appears.
They go by their own schedule.
Yeah, I'll give those all a B- as well. It's been good. Maybe I'll give PD a B. I've been enjoying this season of PD. There's been some new characters in play. Also caught up on Grey's Anatomy. We gotta, if you're still watching, you'll understand what I'm about to say. But like, we gotta stop putting these doctors in helicopters. I mean, we're in the 20-something season. We're still putting these doctors in helicopters. It's just whether it's a main point of the episode or not. Like, too much in helicopters. And that's everything. That's everything I watched, I'm pretty sure. I've not watched a new episode of The Penguin, or I'm behind on that.
The people want to know, are you guys watching Only Murders or not?
No.
I also have to catch up on Only
like,
Murders.
just because you just haven't? Or?
I just keep forgetting about it. It's like
I watched the first 2 episodes, then I just forgot, and now I have to catch up. I'm gonna catch up. We were traveling. We went from Ohio, my brother's way. I don't know how many times I have to say it.
Only Murders is also kind of a show that I like am supposed to watch with Joe because we watch it together. But then sometimes he forgets, and then I watch that. Like, I finished the end of last season without him, and he did not even realize. Like, he didn't. It was, so I'm like, but if I were to say, hey, I'm starting the new season, he'd be like, oh, what, without me?
Right.
So I have to wait to see if I get the green light on watching that one on my own.
Okay, I finished Escape at Dannemora. And
you did that last time. You when you talked to me about it, you're like, Escape at, and I was like, Dannemora.
Waiting for someone else to say it for me. That's what I do when I read menus too. I'll get the just point at the. These were the episodes where like it clicked for me. I'm like, oh my god, I remember this story. Like I remember prisoners being out on the loose for like a while and no one knew where they were. I don't know how I didn't remember that like leading up to it, but it's a crazy story. Like and I enjoyed, like, when they're out of prison, obviously it's, like, a lot more action-packed, I'd say. So I'll give it a B+. Like, very well done. Paul Dano's always, like, an incredible actor. So Love is Blind, D+. Like, that was just...
bad.
I didn't want to watch it, and I skimmed through a lot of it. Like,
yeah.
I went to the movie theater to watch A Real Pain, which is a movie with Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin. And Jesse Eisenberg directed it, actually. But I went in, like, not really knowing what it was about. I just was like, oh, I like both of those guys, and seems like a movie I'd like. And it was, like, very centered around Judaism, which I, like, didn't know. But I think that worked in my favor because I could relate to it. But it's the whole thing is them going, they're cousins who, like, don't see each other much. They used to be close. Their grandma died. And, like, her last wish was, like, for them to go to Poland, where she was from. So then when they go to Poland, it's, like, very obviously centered around, like, the Holocaust and all that. But it's more about, like, their relationship in a way. But really good. Like, very good. Especially if you're Jewish. Like, I think that it'll just hit more. But I'll give it an A-. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that was, like, up at the Oscars or for something. I watched The Comeback, 3 episodes. Which is about the Red Sox winning. Yeah. Which also I feel like it's like they've made a 30 for 30 about it. They've like everyone's seen this before, but this is like just a lot more behind the scenes and like context and everything. And I don't think you have to be like a fan of the Red Sox to just appreciate it. And, I'll give that an A-. Like just a well done documentary.
They always do. Like I feel like Netflix does the sports documentaries really well. I kind of watched the first Terrifier movie. Everyone's talking about Terrifier 3. I don't know what Terrifier is.
It's like scary. I think Maria mentioned it when she was mentioning like Halloween movies when she was on the show. But everyone's talking about I think the third one's out in theaters and it's supposed to be like so gory and whatever. So I watched the first one because it's on Amazon. And I like kind of skimmed through it, but it was just bad. I don't know. Like, I feel like some people like scary movies that are bad in a way, like, because that's what scary movies are. But this one, I don't know. Like, I'll give it a C-. Like, it wasn't, and it wasn't like gory or crazy enough. It wasn't like Saw. But yeah, I don't know. Just kind of creepy.
A lot of scary movies to me are always, I think, are just like,
and it's just like at some point I get it. Like, there's these like movie tropes with scary movies where it's like, oh, like everyone jokes about like why would you go into the closet when you could just
Yeah,
leave?
yeah.
Like it's just that's the whole movie. It's like all
Right.
these people are so dumb. You could have been alive, so then I don't feel bad for you when you get chopped up by this guy because it's like you did this to yourself. And then I watched The Penguin last night, which is episode 7. I think there's one more.
Yeah.
This one last night was insane.
I heard.
Like,
I heard people raving about it.
it was unbelievable.
Shit.
Like
I'm like, when am I going to be able
now
to
I'm
catch up?
now I'm
Now
too
we're going to
far
be on,
gone. Yeah.
and we're doing our shows, so I can't
can't watch
watch
TV,
any of
yeah.
them until next week. Oh,
like I was just so locked in the entire time, and I mean, like I feel like I could give it an A+. I'll give it an A just because I'm like every
Yeah.
week it seems to be getting better.
that was
but
episode 7.
This is 7.
You
but-
can give it an A+. You only have one
But
episode left.
sometimes I feel like the second to last is
Is
the
better
best
than the
one.
last.
And
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
like Game
So-
of
yeah.
Thrones.
If you want to
No,
give
no,
it
I
an A+.
can't. I gotta give.
Okay.
I can.
Oh God, I could never.
But just so good, and yeah, that's all I watched.
All right.
I gotta catch up.
I
gotta
forgot
catch
that
up.
I actually, and you mentioned Kieran Culkin, but I did have a third celebrity sighting this week because it wasn't Kieran Culkin, but I did sit next to at dinner Rory Culkin, the I believe he's the
The
middle
forgotten brother.
or
Wait,
the
what?
younger Culkin.
I don't
Yeah.
even know who that is.
Wow.
He is very recognizable because they have the same face.
He looks
Oh my
like the
God.
Culkins.
They
Yeah.
all he just has long hair,
Yeah.
but they have
Oh, he was in one of the Scream movies.
they have the same face.
Wow.
So when he sat down, I was like, that is a Culkin.
a celebrity-filled weekend.
It really was. It really was.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were at a restaurant in Brooklyn. They sat down next. We were finishing dinner.
How often do you think people go up to me like, "I love Home Alone," like thinking that it's
Oh,
or like, "I
I'm
love
sure.
Succession."
honestly like I'm sure because they really have the same face.
They all have that very distinct face. The
Totally.
Culkins.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
All right, that's everything we watched.